Matt, thank you for joining us for a conversation about finances for the gig worker, which I don't feel like a lot of people talk about. I feel like people get in the gig work and they're like, it's, I make this much per hour. This is what it says. But then they don't really do anything with it and don't really look at the actual numbers. And they're just kind of, getting the money deposited and going on.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, and it gets complicated because a lot of people are on multiple apps and you start losing track of like which account, which deposit is going into, and you're using different cards for different things. And so, yeah, that's why we started working on this. But
it's funny. I'm kind of old school when I have a glass, like a whiteboard, but it's glass in my bedroom. And I literally like write my earnings Monday, $280, blah, blah, blah. And that's how I track everything. And then at the end of the week, I know what I need to hit and I go from there. So I do need to be a little better than that, but
maybe by the end of the episode, I'll convince you to download the app because we've solved that problem. So I'll see what you think about it.
But didn't you used to use another app, Jason? There was one that you could add in the numbers yourself.
Yeah, I did use that for a while, but it wasn't automatic. So it's one of those things where you're like, at the end of the day, I just would rather add it up on my calculator and then just write the number. Right. But yeah, there was an app. I can't remember what they still send me emails. I don't know what it was, but I don't use it. You know how it is. We're lazy. If it's not automatic, it's like.
So Matt, since we already started talking about it, tell us a little bit about how you guys solved that problem. So obviously, debit card, all money goes directly into it. That kind of. Just talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. So the name of the company is Moves, Moves, sort of playing off the fact that people in the gig economy are always moving around. And so we call it an all-in-one financial app for gig workers. So it's a couple of things that we've been working on. We've been working on building out sort of a way for you to track and manage your daily, weekly performance across whatever apps that you use. So a lot of gig workers will tend to have, they set out on the week with a goal in mind of how much they want to earn this week. They'll use sort of multiple apps in a lot of cases to sort of get, different days, different demands and surge prices and things like that. But ultimately they hit their goal and they'll, often just stop working at that point, right? If it's $1,000, you keep working to hit $1,000. So really easy starting point. I mean, when you come on to Moves, you link all of your gig apps. So we support, I think, 16 apps right now. So that means you can sort of link to your Moves profile, your Uber app, your Amazon Flex app, your Shipped app, whatever you're using to earn money. We cover, the majority of all the big ones. We haven't really come across one that people have asked for that we haven't supported. And so what that does is it populates your dashboard so that on like an hourly basis, it refreshes what your earnings are in that app for that week. So it just sort of keeps a going tally and it'll sum it up for you to say, hey, it's Tuesday, you're up to $250 between yesterday and today. The calendar sort of runs Monday to Sunday. And it breaks it down. Hey, you earned $150 on Uber, $100 on Lyft. You've got $250 in total. So that's sort of like more informational. What we're going to be adding to that is like goal setting so that you can sort of say, here, my goal for the week is $1,000 and sort of keep me posted as I'm progressing towards my goal. Okay. Easier way for people to manage just like a holistic picture of their earnings. And we found that most gig workers that we talked to, they sort of thought about their earnings on a weekly basis. We'll probably expand that into, annualizing your income so that when you're getting ready to file your taxes, you can get sort of an annual view of all the money you made on all the apps sort of summed up in a single place. If you need to prove to your landlord that you make money and you can afford rent, you can sort of like export, hey, here's my income summary from all the gig apps that I use. And ultimately, we'll probably get into tools that help people prepare for their taxes. So that might be things like, auto deducting a certain estimated amount from your earnings and putting it into another account so that it's just sitting there the day you need to pay your taxes. So that's sort of part one of the app is this like dashboard. And if you guys are interested, I'm happy to show you what that looks like. But the second part of the app is really more like a bank account product. And there's a couple of things that we've been building on top of that we found resonated a lot. And so we started a couple of months ago by testing out a cash advance for gig workers, and sort of uniquely the only cash advance we could find in market that was explicitly designed to like match your historical earnings to like being the only metric we look at to approve you for a cash advance. And so we pull that same data, right? So we're looking at your Uber income, your Shipped income, whatever apps you're using. And we look at an average week and say, okay, in an average week, you're making $550 on all these apps. And so you get approved for a cash advance. It's equivalent to 1 week's income. So if you ever ran into an unexpected car repair or your bike got stolen and you use that for food deliveries or whatever the case might be, just knowing that you have, roughly a week's income just available to you when you need it. And then that gets collected back from you over a 10-week period. And we've built that to be extremely affordable. I mean, we charge 3.5% for that product.
Oh.
So no additional fees. And so you borrow $100, you pay us back $103.50. Like it's that simple. And where that's going is it's going to get,
it's not even a monthly rent. It's like for each time.
Yeah. Each time. Yeah.
So wow. That's so easy to calculate.
Over 10. And we tried to make it super, super intuitive. I mean, you borrow $100, it's $103.50, which means we're going to take 10 payments of $10.35 out of your account, and so it's very, very simple over 10 weeks. Right. And so that's something that we started testing back in February that we found resonated a lot, because the day that you need sort of $300, often you don't really know where to go to get that $300 because your car needs an unexpected repair or something like that. Right.
Well, you can go to Payday Advance and pay them 27% back, right?
Oh, I'm sure it's more than that.
Oh yeah, some of them are pretty nuts. I mean, some of them when you sort of calculate it out to annualized interest rates are in the hundreds of percentage points, right? So anyways, we saw an obvious gap there. The card that we just rolled out actually yesterday is moving the product towards like a single account for all your gig income. So right now we'll find people often take advantage of the products that are offered to them, like the Amazon Flex Reward card or the Uber GoBank card or whatever those are, because they have like a specific feature associated to that platform. Mm-hmm. Right? And often the primary feature people are interested in is some combination of like, hey, I want to get my pay instantly. Right. Or I want to get some sort of rewards, cash back or gas perks or something like that. Right. So we're trying to aggregate all of that into a single account so that you can have your Moves card, have your direct deposits flowing in from your various gig apps, and still get the ability to pull out all of your earnings on all of your apps same day. That's being built. It's not live yet. What's live today is just the cash advance feature and the debit card that you can use to spend it, but you can also request the cash advance to a third-party account. So if you bank with Chase, you can request the cash advance to your Chase account, and we'll send it out to your Chase account. So there's the product, as with a lot of apps, it changes month over month. We're building a new feature, we're adding sort of new characteristics to it. And then the last part that we just started dabbling in is this idea of a community tab. And one thing that we heard a lot was just gig workers being curious as to like, what are other gig workers doing around them? And so within this community tab, eventually we'd like to build out more features that sort of give you a sense of almost like a mini little social network for gig workers. So you can see other people in your city who just finished a delivery nearby. How much tip did they receive? You could sort of like share your milestones, like, hey, I just got a really great tip. Here's how I did it, whatever. And like start to build out this idea of gig workers just sort of like trading and comparing notes with each other and celebrating each other's successes. And
I'm pretty sure a lot of that is against terms and conditions for most of those apps. So be careful with that.
What's that?
Yeah.
If you have it too much, like too centered, they don't like sharing much of the information, not even if it's the drivers themselves that does it.
Well, I mean, I don't think that would be a problem. I mean, I don't know what that would violate. It's just like Facebook.
Well, yes, but on Facebook, it's not centralized in one location. It's on many different networks, many different groups and that kind of stuff. So that's why they really can't do much about it. I'm fairly sure if you start sharing a lot about what you make and all that stuff, I don't think they're going to be very happy at all.
I disagree, but
either way.
And I think ultimately long term, your point is sort of well taken, Jesper. And I think like one of the issues we see is like how much leverage sits in the hands of these companies and how little leverage sits in the hands of the gig workers. Right?
Absolutely.
Like, when we started building this, it was with a view towards like, there's a lot of frustration around gig workers feeling like unappreciated, unheard, a little bit sort of marginalized, and they're just expected to take whatever's given to them and never ask for more and never sort of make demands. And we saw this over the course of the last couple of years. You've probably heard a ton of this through your podcast. It's just people wanting to unionize, people wanting to demand minimum wages, and a lot of that is this frustration where like gig workers provide an enormous amount of value to these companies, and they're often not it's not recognized. It's not that they're not rewarded for it, maybe to the degree they should be. So a big part of our like strategy is like, hey, how do we celebrate gig workers more? How do we give them a product that really feels like it's focused on them? Because if you use Uber as a driver, you know that Uber's primary concern is their customer. Their secondary concern is their driver. And so, can we build a product that the primary concern is the driver, right? The primary concern is the delivery guy, whatever the case might be. So that's what we're hoping to build.
And I agree with 100%, by the way. And I'm definitely supporting everything you want to do in that. My fear is that, particularly what Uber and Lyft don't want you knowing, is they don't have any interest at all in people from different markets knowing exactly what they make, different markets over, because that's totally, would be against their strategy almost, that somebody from a little Grand Rapids market know exactly how much that somebody in LA would make and so forth and that kind of stuff. And because there is such a big difference into what it's being charged. We have a little bit more insight into it than most, I think, almost. But because of the community that we have going on with people, we have actively drivers from many different markets in America talking together almost, well, before COVID, we almost did it on a nightly basis, right? And there are some markets where they're making a lot more than you're making per ride in, for instance, Little Grand Rapids, right?
Yeah.
And so, and I think Lyft and Uber has no interest in drivers knowing that, what different people are making.
Right. Well, honestly, it's not a huge part of the app, so I wouldn't. You know what I mean?
But I can no, and I agree with you, Jason. But I can see that becoming a great feature in Matt's product.
Right.
You'll be able to go in and see what. I've always thought that it would be great if I could see what could I expect to make on a Saturday night in the Grand Rapids market compared to other people. Like one feature that I was just thinking about, what would be really cool if you have the AI software that goes in and analyzes all the transactions based on my driving records for the last 6 months. It would be easy for it to determine when is my golden period. So when is the period that I should be driving, because that's where I'm making the most. That'd be great to have that feature. That's a question we get all the time, is when should I be driving? Well, maybe you should figure out yourself. That's the answer we give, right?
Yeah, that's what we do.
but if you had a piece of software such as Moves that could do this for you, how great would it be to say, based on my history, I make so much on a Thursday night between 7 and 8. I need to go out there.
Right.
Or whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think there's tons of opportunity for us to like dive in deeper to stuff like that. One feature that we're building in the next month or two is, we already have this idea of sort of tracking your own income, right? So the stacked income across all these platforms. What we're building next on top of that is the ability for you to compare how your income compares to other workers in your market, right? So, hey, if I'm and eventually we'll layer in, how many hours did you work to get that income? How many gigs did you have to complete to get that income? And how does that compare to others in your market, right? So even just showing you, hey, did you know that you're a top 10% earner in the Grand Rapids market is just an interesting factoid. Hey, I'm like one of the top earning gig workers in my city. It just, it makes it a little bit, well, one, it's information, it's insightful for people that want to try to manage their finances. But two, I think over time, we also want to create sort of a sense of like community and fun in the work that you do on a day-to-day basis. Like, you might want to start competing with other people. Like, hey, I'm Jesper keeps beating me on the leaderboard. I want to earn a little more so that I can like push him off the leaderboard.
Well,
right? Like,
yeah, and I like that because it's it's automatic, so it's not like you're fudging the numbers.
Well, and that's the thing. Now we're gamifying it, right? And we can really create that aspect, which also help to build community. Definitely. So I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, so I'd like, in terms of context, this has been about a year and a half in the making. We just launched the app 2.5 weeks ago. And so, it's constantly a work in progress, but it's now available on iOS and Android. It's available in all 50 states. The Visa debit card account product just went live yesterday.
Okay.
And so anyways, it'll constantly change. A lot of what we're telling users early on is if you take a chance on using this product. We're probably going to reach out to you and ask you for your ideas because we're looking to figure out how to make improvements, what other features people are interested in. And so we're doing daily, probably 2-3 video calls with gig workers that have downloaded the app and asking them what they think and what's the next feature they would see as being like an interesting feature or valuable feature to them. So a lot of like talking to people and learning as we go.
So right now, if you don't really use the Go card, which is that what it's called?
Go is one of the Uber products. I mean,
was that the Go card? I forget whatever it was. Go Bank, yes, thank you. If you don't really use the gas features of that, you might as well be using your debit card, right?
Yeah, and on top of that, I mean, what we'll end up moving towards is we're starting to evaluate like what types of rewards programs people care about. I think doing things like gas will be obvious. I think starting to figure out ways to get pricing advantages on car maintenance and things like that. We got to go and do some research and figure out how to tackle that. There's some ideas out there that we're dabbling in.
Yeah, I think this is a good product. I would definitely be the most interested in the rewards. As we talked in our pre-show a couple of weeks ago, that I use the Amazon rewards card because it gets me up to 6% off. And again, I drive a SUV, so gas is my biggest expense. So although that card, what a disaster product that they put out. It is, I mean, it won't let me transfer money to my external account, and sometimes it does. It's real sketch, I'm not going to lie, but I just deposited all my Amazon money on there. But again, they all have a card, and it gets kind of stupid to have 6 cards, and you're like juggling them all. So that's why I just focused Amazon. You go into gas, that's all you're doing. You're not spending anything else on this card. But
and honestly, if you are a full-time gig worker, it has a much higher impact on your credit score if you have it all gathered in one spot, as opposed to having a lot of little pieces on different little pieces of cards.
But do debit cards report to the? I don't think debit cards report to.
But there's still bank accounts though, and you have savings.
That's
You'll have money that way. So it will have a bigger impact on.
Yeah, nothing that we do touches the credit bureau. So when you come get a cash advance, there's no credit checks. There's no, it's just we look at what was your average income in the last couple of months, and we give you access to that amount of cash as a cash advance if you need it. So we would try to explicitly stay away from that because we know credit is often a touchy subject for a lot of people that are like trying to make ends meet. But hopefully over time we'll figure out ways to actually help build credit, build better credit profiles for people as part of the app as well. So something that we'll look at. I'm curious, Jason, you mentioned your Amazon Flex card. How many apps are you like typically working on when you're sort of piecing together your week?
Probably like 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean Grubhub, DoorDash, Amazon, Uber. Yeah, 4. I mean, I have other ones available.
Why to turn one on versus the other? Is it just you've figured out the schedules and you figured out what's the right time to turn on?
Yeah, like in my market, Amazon routes only pop in the afternoon. So in the mornings, I'm doing food delivery. I like, at least in the last year with the pandemic, I haven't done any passengers in over a year. So, I do food delivery in the morning, and then I would do, because, food delivery drops off in the afternoon. I mean, no, everyone's done with lunch, and then Amazon's around 2 p.m. So then I'd pick up an Amazon route, and then I'd be done for my day.
Yeah, I gotcha.
And in the morning I'm running, Uber Eats, DoorDash, Grubhub for food, and then like Amazon in the afternoon.
Yes, for you were mentioning some of these like I guess these online communities where people are like talking to each other in different cities around the country. Like how active are these communities, and how much do you guys play a role in that?
Well, so we we have our own community mainly, which is just using an app, and the name escapes me all the time. Jason, help me out.
Telegram.
Thank you. So we have a fairly active group in Telegram, and obviously pre-COVID it was super active, and honestly was probably one of the main reasons as to why I actually technically stayed driving. One of my biggest reasons to begin with for getting into all this was because I was just bored. When I was out driving at night, it was just me being lonely out on the road, right? There was nothing really to it. But then once we added this whole community about it, and we were able to kind of talk to all your friends in between rides, and You do a little bit of complaining sometimes about the different drivers to get different riders to get in the car and have a little bit of fun and shoot the breeze and stuff. It makes it into a job. It makes it more fun to be able to share.
Like you have coworkers. You feel like you've got
right. And you got each other's backs, right? I mean, several times have we had instances where, there was one time where somebody had a car trouble. We were able to show up for them. There was a night where there was one of the female drivers who wasn't feeling safe with a passenger in the ride. We were able to kind of meet her on the way and kind of help her out. So there were several instances. Now, nothing happened of it, but it could have been, right? But there were several instances where something like that, you're able to just kind of step up and be there for your co-workers as well.
Is that like unique to you guys are in Grand Rapids, if I understood correctly?
Yep.
I was trying to figure out what the GR in your logo was because I bought one of your t-shirts today, so I'm gonna rock my Gig Economy podcast t-shirt. But I figured it was Grand Rapids. Do you think that's unique to the fact that you're in like a relatively small city? Do you think that characteristic would be the same in like LA or New York?
So I don't know, right? But we have several people in our group from bigger cities. But we hear about other groups, but we don't know how active they are per se.
Yeah.
Right now we have about 60 people in our group.
No,
so
there's 40.
Are we down that far?
Yeah.
Okay,
so Jesper likes to talk our group up, but it has dwindled quite a bit. Basically, on the app, if you don't use it after a year, Telegram just deletes your account. So it's slowly dwindling, but
and that's because of COVID, right? So there's some falling back, but it'll come back, I'm sure, because that was, definitely one of the big reasons I think for a lot of the drivers were out there. But I think you're right, Matt. There's definitely something to be said about it being Grand Rapids being a maybe not a minor market, but definitely a medium-sized market.
More of a sense.
This model won't work in every big city. No.
Yeah. I like that. I hadn't really thought about that sort of like safety use case, like somebody feeling like they're at risk with a passenger in the back of their car and just having somebody to ask for help or getting stranded on the road. That's interesting.
Yeah, I think a lot of I'm kind of working with a beta company right now on the side that kind of, because I have a question I need to ask you because of this beta test, but basically kind of tracks your income too. It's not a bank by any means, but they're trying to create these small little micro groups. Him and I had talked quite a bit about Telegram and how the community oriented part of it is really cool. And I think a lot of guys like you and this other company, they're trying, it's tough to get in front of gig workers. So they're like having these micro groups throughout the country trying to create and put an admin on it. And it's to make them grow too, but also to build community. But I think that's kind of the wave of the future. It's kind of going back to like the old school chat rooms. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? This is kind of how we're doing it. So, but it's definitely, I think it's important to people, and I think it's important to gig workers because Facebook's great, but no, it's not great, but let's be fair. But you get on Facebook. I'm in a DoorDash group and they bitch about it, but I like the instant, hey, this is what's going on with me. Here's my voice, not just my text. Because I drive all the time for my full-time gig and then gig work. So I don't text when I drive. So I'm leaving voice messages, and not actually voice to text, but actual voice messages. And I know a lot of people are weird about that, but it just works out. But I think there's such value in being able to message somebody instantly, and your buddy on the other side of town's like, holy shit, what's going on over there? Or hey, Chipotle's 30 minutes behind, do not take an order from Chipotle in Granville or whatever, those kind of things.
Yeah, well, we had one night where a driver from Detroit came over. He just kind of bored, and he was like, "Oh, I'll come over." So some of us, we used to end our nights at a pizza place at 3:30, and he came over and he joined us for pizza. So you have that community. So what were you saying, Matt? Sorry,
I was going to say this probably goes over. I'm going to go out on a limb here and guess that you guys don't use TikTok, because I don't use TikTok. But you do use TikTok. All right. Well, I shouldn't have gone out on a limb. I'm sorry, Jason.
Yeah. I don't use it. I don't make videos. I've made 2, but I think honestly, I deleted Facebook for about 7 months. over the pandemic, and I used TikTok, and it was like, I loved it. Like I find it.
We have a decent amount of like gig workers posting sort of their,
Yeah.
not so much a conversation. It's more posting a story of something that just happened to you. Hey, I just got a shitty tip, or this restaurant's super behind, and we found like there's a decent amount of activity around these hashtags that are specific to gig workers on TikTok, where people are like, hashtag great tip, and they're sharing an exciting story of how they just got a $20 tip or something. And just like leaning into that, because there's people that have sort of popped up as being these little like micro influencers within this world of like TikTok gig workers, which is pretty cool. But every platform set has its own unique flavor of that, whether it's on Facebook or it's on Telegram or TikTok or whatever.
I mean, at least with TikTok, they're only 1 minute, so it's great.
Yeah.
Like you're only out 1 minute if it's terrible or if it's great and you want more. You know what I mean? So it's like it's not a huge commitment. But yeah. I'm definitely a TikToker. One of the questions I wanted to bring up about that other app is the refreshing of the earnings. I find that app is just, and I don't know, it's probably not their app. It's probably them getting the data from Uber or Grubhub. But how have you combated that? You said it looks like yours refreshes quite a bit, but.
Yeah, I mean, it's a constant trade-off. I mean, we ran into this issue initially. So we work with a company that sort of like provides that like data integration, so that we can go one to many all at once. So like instead of having to do an integration to Uber, an integration to Grubhub, an integration, there's like one layer in the middle that we work with this company to do that. And so initially, very like different platforms sort of had different response times of how quickly they could get access to the data. We've gotten it down to be pretty manageable. I mean, like definitely within a day, it'll update, 5-6 times within a day. We're trying to get that consistently down to like an hour for your stats to update. What's different that we learned is that when we go in to pull data, there's certain data within your profile, let's say on Amazon Flex, that we can get really quickly, and there's other data that's a little bit less apples to apples when you're going across platforms. And so, like a star rating on one app might be different. It might be a different ranking system on another app, right? And so when we try to build this in, like if we wanted to pull into your profile on Moves, hey, here's your average star rating. Yeah. We'd have to make up for the fact that apps measure stars differently, or they measure rankings differently, right? So earnings is the easiest data point. The other ones are a little bit more unique to the context of the app that we're pulling it from, right? So we're trying to figure out how do we normalize that? Because if I want to give you an understanding of like, your Uber versus Lyft, I mean, like one idea that we're thinking about longer term is that if a worker stops working for an app, they shouldn't lose their reputation. Like you built up this reputation for like, working on Lyft. The fact that you stopped driving for Lyft doesn't mean you should start from scratch again. So can you like carry that reputation with you, right? So this would be something that we'd eventually like start emphasizing a little bit more, is that once you pull your reputation into Moves, it's constant, right? Like you stop driving for Lyft, you still have this history of your Lyft reputation, right? Like it's still there. And for whatever that's worth, I think it's just like our sort of vision is how do we like shift the power away from these companies a little bit, give it back to the driver a little bit, right? So there's definitely some little sticking points with the data, but generally speaking, for what most people are using it for, they'll come into the app once a day to see their like end of day income. We haven't had any issues with that. If you wanted to come into the app after every completed ride, you might be disappointed that it's not updated after every completed ride.
Well, yeah, and I think daily is fine, but I honestly add my stuff up throughout the day. Well, not everyone, don't get me wrong. Like I know by like 11 a.m. I'm not going to be at my goal unless I just had like a $75 tip or something like that. But I do try to get an idea. So I'm like, all right, I need 6 more deliveries, I know, or I need 3 more, or but yeah, that app wasn't even doing it daily. So the daily would be a game changer.
We're way beyond daily. We're down to sort of like hourly, sometimes every 2 hours, but like it's sort of within the range that you'll see an update in your stats.
Does it show you how old the data is then? Do you have like
right on the screen, like when the last time it was pulled?
See, that's powerful.
From, 4 p.m. or something like that. And so it's 5:30, you're just waiting for the next update.
And right? the service you may be using, I mean, you have other this company is not a financial company, so they may not have the best whatever security or layer.
They're a company called Argyle. They do they do sort of like payroll data broadly. And so like, not just gig companies, but they specifically have integrations into all these gig data sets.
Yeah.
So we do like one integration with this company called Argyle, and then that allows us to capture, I think we're at 16 gig apps. So it sort of goes down the list of like your really, really common ones, Uber, Lyft, Amazon Flex, DoorDash, et cetera, and to some more obscure ones like WAG for dog walkers and things like that, right? So there's and over time,
Jason know about that one.
Yeah, I did. I definitely did that at one point.
Oh, cool. I mean, it's a cool app. It's not as
common.
Yeah, common as Uber drivers, obviously.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, tell us how you can get. What's the app? What people search for in the App Store? Just Moves.
Yeah, Moves Financial.
Okay.
Movesfinancial.com is the website. You can also click through the website to the App Store. But if you search Moves Financial in either App Store, it'll pop up. I mean, at this point, the app is working really well. We're super excited about it. We're also really interested in just hearing people's feedback. So there's a lot of like manual touch points. So our team makes a big effort to like reach out to almost every user that signs up to say, hey, do you want to schedule a 20-minute call with us? We'll give you a $30 prepaid gift card or something, and you tell us what you felt about the app, because at this point it's just a lot of education for us to talk to a lot of gig workers, and it was pretty incredible. I mean, we ran a beta for about a month before launching the app 2.5 weeks ago, and we now have users in 42 of 50 states. So we're getting them. There's a couple of like, we don't cover that. We don't have any users in the Dakotas yet, so we got to work on the Dakotas. But I'll show you the map at some point. It's pretty cool to see, like, including Alaska. We have a user in Alaska.
Don't feel bad. I don't think we have any listens in Dakota either.
There's some markets that's very little
gig work going on in there. A lot of oil fields, not a lot of gig work.
No, I think I'll be signing up though. I'm about ready to get back out there on the road. I actually just got approved again today, Jason.
Oh,
my
good.
background check came back, so that's all good. But yeah, so I'm thinking about go back to the curve and kind of use yours and just kind of see it. I'm a big geek when it comes to gamifying things. So I love the whole idea of bringing multiple apps together. Not that, I mean, I only have one app, so it's not a big deal. But
you're driving Uber, Jesper?
Yeah, so I used to be Uber and Lyft, right? And so yeah, I'll be doing some food delivery until probably at the end of the year is when I'll feel safe to take passengers again. So
yeah, I gotcha.
Well, Matt, I appreciate. Go ahead. What were you saying?
Well, I was just gonna say on that note, how's the vaccine rollout been in your part of the country? Are you guys?
Oh yeah, we're pretty much. You can just go get it now. It's just like any country, half Republican, half liberals. I think everyone's that's going to get the vaccine probably has gotten it. So,
yeah,
they done really well here, though. We had places that gave out like 12,000 vaccines a day. It was
they were cranking them out.
Yep.
It'd be nice to get back to normal.
Yeah, it will. It will. But yeah, I'll probably sign up too. I'm not doing any gig work now, but I'll still sign up, play with the app a little bit.
Yeah, I'd love to hear your feedback. I mean, well, separately, I'll flip you guys an email after this, so that after you sign up, we can just have sort of an open line of communication just to see what you felt about it. Because, for one, just testing out those integrations, Jason, to see if it's pulling data fast enough, so you don't have to write on your whiteboard.
Right. Well, yeah, and I'd like to get it all going because I'll be back doing gig work in the fall. I do lawn fertilization, and it kind of just taps me out. Yeah. And I found when I used to do gig work with that and in the summer, when I went to do it in the winter, I'd get burned out so much quicker because I did it all summer too. And you're like, it's kind of nice. I'm kind of spoiled. I get to change jobs every year. So it's fresh. So I'm like, what? I'm just going to do lawn care and then do gig work and then do lawn care, and just kind of works out that way. So
that's cool.
All right. Well, thanks again, Matt. I will, once I get this edited up, I can send it to you, and then I'm not sure officially we'll post to our fans, but we'll let you know.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right.
Let me know if you can do anything after you guys. I'll send you guys more info on the app just so you guys
that'd be great. Okay. So we can forward it on. So
thank you so much, Matt.
Thanks for taking the time, guys. This is fun.
All right, thanks, Matt. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Bye.